What's up, everyone? David Lawrence in the house. This is for educational and entertainment purposes, along with my religious, my right to my religious education from my my fellow men and women. Today we're going to discuss the income tax. Okay, I want everyone to understand certain things about the income tax that you're not gonna get this information from really many sources out there. There's a couple. Most of this is pretty private. Usually the ones who are providing this sort of information are censored. So the income tax, just think about how many professions are behind this scam. Accountants, CPAs, bookkeepers, tax preparers, all these people. This is a giant club, right? And it's just kind of like our legal system. It's a giant club, and we ain't in it. You might be in it. You might be. There's sheriffs, there's judges, there's DAs, prosecutors. They're all in this club, and it's designed to sort of siphon funds from you because there is no money. And redistribute wealth. So that's really what the income tax is. So I'm not going to be too long because I know people don't have good long attention spans. But again, this is not tax advice. It's not legal advice. It's just for educational, entertainment, and religious purposes only, just so I can share the information that I've been studying for many years. And by no means am I an expert at all. I've just been lucky to have people who I trust share information with me. I've been lucky to be part of some trust groups, some study groups that, once you hear this, you look up the definition and then you go like, wow. And then it's just absorbing things. That's it. I'm interested and I absorb it and then I share it. So first of all, the most important thing you can understand is if you're not a foreign corporation or if you're not a non-resident alien, if you're from the United States of America and you live in one of the states and you grew up here, and like for me, I'm a Californian, I'm a non-citizen national, a private American, private civilian, right? If you're one of those people and you earn, income from wages, labor, compensation, whatever you want to call it, W-2, like it's just an equal exchange. Someone pays you for your time and your energy, right? That's an equal exchange. It's just like a private contract, right? So the most important thing, if you walk away from one thing from this video, it's this, that you have a right to earn a living in one of the states of the Union. Okay, and I can't speak for other countries. This is just the USA, okay? You have a right to earn a living. And remember, the government cannot take a right, turn it into a privilege, and tax that right. Does that make sense? That is, if you understand that, you understand this entire thing, okay? So the right to earn a living, these are my notes I've taken after I, study. The right to earn a living is just that, a right, not a privilege. The government cannot take a legal or lawful right and convert it into a taxable privilege, period. Our labor is not taxable because it is not a privilege to work and earn a living. It is a right. I should probably just stop right there. A privilege, what is a privilege? A privilege is a government granted privilege, right? So it's something I don't have the right to do, but it's prohibited unless the government grants me that privilege, right? So if you exercise the use of a federally privileged activity, something that you don't have a right to do, a natural right, then you would actually owe an income tax. What is a federally privileged activity? What is an excise tax? Do you guys know what these are? So basically, if you look at the Constitution, I'm going away from my notes now, but if you go look at the Constitution and you look at what they mention in there, lay and collect taxes imposts, duties, and excises. Does anyone know what an impost, duty, and excise is? Because that's going back to the original contract, the original law of the land, which is the Constitution. Imposts are like imports. Duties are like exports. And then excises are exercising a federally privileged activity. So it's an excise tax is a tax on engaging in a federally privileged activity. So unless you are importing things, unless you are exporting things, or unless you are engaged in a federally privileged activity, the income tax does not apply to you. If you are just like me, you're a Californian or whatever, a Texan, and you work for someone else and they pay you wages for your time and your energy, and that's a private contract, and you have a right to do that. You have a right to earn a living. That is not a taxable event, okay? Now, when it would be a taxable event is if you are a foreign person earning domestic income, U.S. So if you were a foreign corporation or a non-resident alien earning U.S. source income in one of the states, right? But you're not from here, you're a foreign corporation or non-resident alien, the income tax applies to you, okay? So that's it. I like my mic drop. That's really it. But through propaganda, the media, the normalcy of completing a W-4 and a 1040 and all that, they have conditioned the Americans, the private citizens, private nationals, state nationals, non-citizen nationals, all that, private civilians, they have conditioned those people to think that the government can come in and take a piece of what you have earned from your right to earn a living. And that is absolutely false. You have the right to earn a living. You have a right to earn a living, period. Okay? So let's talk about what a privilege is. If you go read the Constitution, look at they have the Congress that can lay and collect taxes, okay, imposts, duties, excises. Just read up what those are in a Black's Law dictionary, and you'll understand what those are. Imports, export. So it's basically you're a foreign corporation, you're a foreign person, right? And you're bringing in goods or you're sending out goods, right? An excise is the exercising of a federally privileged activity, which is importing and exporting, right? So it's basically for foreign persons. The income tax is for foreign persons, okay? So for foreign persons, it's a privilege to earn U.S. source income, right? So that's an excise tax. That's, falling into either an impost, a duty, or an excise, right? Your labor, which is not taxable, and you have a right to earn a living, does not fall under income tax, right? And the power of this concept, for everyone to understand this, could literally shut down our oppressors who are oppressing us financially. And I won't name any names. You know who they are. You know who these organizations are. Me speaking out like this, you could be labeled a domestic terrorist or whatever. But again, this is just for educational, entertainment purposes only, religious purposes only. This is not tax or legal advice. But they've conditioned the average American who is earning a living, which is a right, they've conditioned the average American to complete a 1040 every year and send it in because they don't want to deal with certain organizations, right? And they don't know lawful money redemption. They don't understand this concept of what I'm talking about. And they get raped by certain organizations that are foreign, right? And are not licensed in all the 50 states. So those funds are used for not to go to the Treasury like they should be. They're going to the central banks, the Federal Reserve banks. they're going to fund wars. They're going to fund genocide. They're going to fund, things that we as normal, like private Americans who with, when I say normal, I mean just we wouldn't consent to paying people to bomb people, right? Like we're just normal, nice people. We don't want our funds to get stolen from us and then go to supporting wars, right? So if the average person who's grown up here understood this, they could stop doing that. They could stop completing a 1040. They could stop reporting everything that they're earning as taxable, because it's not. Remember, taxes is voluntary. So they're relying on you to volunteer your information and give it to them and say, yes, tax me, because I don't want to deal with your organization, because you guys are thugs, because you guys don't follow the law, and I don't want to deal with you, right? And they're known to seize property and garnish and do a lot of illegal things without due process. So it's my goal to help teach what I'm learning, because if more people can understand this and then apply it through lawful money redemption, through just understanding that certain things are not taxable, like your labor, then we stop feeding this beast, this machine, right? So for foreign persons, it's a privilege to earn U.S. source income, okay? The income tax, this is another big one. I'm probably not even going to finish everything today. I'll do this in different live feeds, okay? I'm just going to get through this first page today so we can just keep it simple. Okay, the income tax is an indirect tax. Now, who understands what's the difference between an indirect tax and a direct tax, right? So a direct tax is one that is apportioned to the states, right? And it's a tax on persons and property. An indirect tax is a tax on activities and transactions, okay? And the Supreme Court, in multiple cases, but most recently in 2024, Moore versus United States from June 2024, I have all the conclusions of the Supreme Court in that case. It's on my Telegram. It's screenshotted, and they clearly state multiple times that the income tax is an indirect tax. It's an indirect tax. It's not a direct tax. Certain organizations would have you believe that it's a direct tax, meaning it just applies to everyone. If you earn income, you got to pay it. It's not the case. Supreme Court said it's an indirect tax, which only applies to activities and transactions. Remember what we talked about earlier? Imposts, duties, excises. Those are activities and transactions. So again, an impost is like importing. Again, this is applying to foreign trade, right? Foreign persons. Impost is like an import. Yeah, it's easy to remember that, right? A duty is like an export. And then an excise is the exercise of a federally privileged activity, which means it's not a right. It's something that you can't do normally unless the government grants you that privilege. And in this case, these privileges are importing goods and receiving income, U.S. sourced income, okay? So that is what an indirect tax is. A direct tax would be more something like property taxes, even though we know that's a scam too. Sales tax, I think that's the case. So direct tax is apportioned to the states. You can't have an indirect tax that's non-apportioned, but that's what the IRS says. Okay, so I'm just going to keep it simple. We'll get into all that stuff. I don't want to confuse anyone. And I'm sure a lot of you understand a lot of the stuff already, because if you're following me, you probably already get most of this stuff. But maybe I can help you connect the dots with this video. And I'll do more videos. I want to start being more interactive. I haven't done live videos in a while. But yeah, so the income tax is what? An indirect tax, not a direct tax. Okay, it's not a direct tax like, oh, you own a house, Or you bought something at the store, it's a sales tax. But that's another thing. The sales tax only applies to foreign persons too. So if you're a business in California and you're registered here, you don't have to charge your customer sales tax. That's only for if you're like a foreign corporation from another state or from another country and you're doing business in California, you would have to charge sales tax. But sales tax, if you have a business in California and you're doing business in California and you're registered in California, you don't have to charge your taxes are for foreign persons when it comes to sales tax and income. Fact. So that right there, if you have a business in there's like scams within scams. There's like layers of scams. It's all just lack of knowledge because we go with the crowd. We're indoctrinated to believe certain things, and but it's not the case if you look into the actual laws. Okay, so we've established that you have the right to earn a living if you are, if you're born in one of the 50 states, California, I'm a Californian, I have a right to work and earn a living in California. That's not a privilege, right? It would only be a privilege if I was a foreign person, like a foreign corporation, okay, or, a non-resident alien, okay? So really, what I'm saying is the income tax only applies to non-resident aliens and foreign corporations. And they are engaged in a federally privileged activity because they're earning U.S. source income in the form of impost, a duty, or an excise, right? So, if I was like certain things are other privileged activity. What's another privileged activity, right? A license, a commodity, being a corporation itself, because you're shielding yourself from liability. You can write off your expenses, right? So these are all privileged activities, right? But it's specifically talking about foreign. You have to be foreign. You have to be not from here earning income here. That's the privilege, right? So the income tax applies to you if you are not from here. You're a foreign person or a corporation or a non-resident alien. Income tax, unfortunately, does apply to you. But then there's still lawful money redemption. So we've established you have a right to work that can't be taxed. You have a right to earn a living, right? We've established that the income tax is an indirect tax, okay? And what is an indirect tax? It's on activities and transactions, imposts, duties, and excises. So again, if you're from here and you're earning a living and you're not engaged in a federally privileged activity and you're not engaged in exports or imports, your income is not a taxable event. And that is a fact. No matter what your accountant says, what your bookkeeper says, what your teacher says, what your friend says, what your attorney friend says, that is the fact, and that is codified. That's in Title 26. Look it up. Chapter 3, Title 26, non-resident aliens and foreign corporations. That's all they talk about. It's the only one that it applies to, the income tax, Title 26. Okay, so I think I'm going to stop there. I think that's good enough for today. But I'll just end with, since it's a privilege itself for a foreign person to earn income here in the several states, they don't even need to be engaged in duties or imposts. All they need to do is be earning an income for the privilege to exist. Okay? So unless you are a foreign person, which is a non-resident alien or foreign corporation, or you're an agent of a non-resident alien or a foreign corporation, and you're earning income in the U.S., or earning income via exports or imports, the income tax does not apply to you. That's it. I'll see you on the next one. And on the next one, we're going to get into the difference between, again, direct and indirect tax. What's an apportioned tax? What's a non-apportioned tax? Because they don't teach you much of like this kind of stuff at school, right? That's by design. They don't teach you a lot of stuff. They don't teach you how to correctly file your taxes. None of that stuff that we need to, secure our wealth. And they certainly don't teach you about 12 USC 411. So next time we'll get into, indirect versus direct. We'll get into some like Bershaber versus Union Pacific decision. We'll talk about some certain like court cases, Supreme Court cases that have set precedents when it comes to this topic. It's like the Supreme Court is just sitting back saying, we've told you all this, but you guys don't really read case law. And then you have certain organizations that are preying on that ignorance, and they just prey on your, ignorance and then intimidation. That's really how they operate. So they're really a criminal organization, like a cartel, and they prey on ignorance and intimidation. And that's really it. So we'll get into that, and then we'll get into direct versus indirect, non-apportioned versus apportioned, and we'll dig a little bit deeper into Title 26. All right. Well, everyone, thanks for joining. It's only a few people on. I appreciate you. Since my account got taken down back in 2020, when was it? 2019? Things have been very different for me. So, still making Organite, still doing the supplements and doing consults as well. So if anyone wants to do like an hour consult to talk about all this, if you have like a tax thing you want to talk about, if you want to talk about a PMA, if you want to talk about, lawful money redemption, microdosing, fasting, plant-based, all the things that I'm passionate about, knowledgeable about, happy to help. All right. Peace. Have a good night.